Swinburne's also going to give us other criterion that need to be met as well in order for something to count as a miracle. Hume has his own set of criteria, and it's important to know that for Hume, nothing will ever meet that set of criteria. Right? Nothing ever checks all the boxes. That's his skepticism, right? But his biggest critique is, again, psychological. It's about people and the fact that we like to tell tales and we can never get large groups of people to agree on what happened, right? And that's one of his requirements. So, yeah. What are we considering to be a violation of a law of nature? What is even a law of nature at this point, right? And then there's also the question of figuring out what the cause was, right? Was it actually God's intervention or something else? Because again, as we talked about with the teleological arguments for God's existence, not everybody sees harmony in the universe, right? A lot of people see chaos. So is every chaotic thing, right, that occurs potentially the will of God, right? Doing these, like the fact that the Earth was hit by a giant asteroid, right? Was that a non-repeatable counter instance? We don't know yet, right? Even if it was consistent with the laws of nature, it seems to satisfy Swinburne's notion, right? It hasn't happened since, right? Good. So, right, how are we actually going to ascribe supernatural agency, right, or responsibility to these events? How can we know who is actually responsible for it? Good. Okay. So now let's go back. Yeah, so if we're looking at the less pretty PowerPoint, right, on slide 6, you can see why we're not going to be using, right, weak notions of the miraculous for this particular argument, but you will see that some of them tend to go along with the notions of intelligent design, right? So the idea is that maybe even our current understanding of like evolution, right? A lot of theists might say that it can't account for the complexity of the human eye. Like it's just so much more complex and so much more amazing than what natural evolution could possibly, provide in that period of time. And again, this depends on what you think is possible, right? What do you think is possible given your understanding of the laws of nature versus what is not possible within them? That's going to determine then what you consider to be a miracle, right? Is the evolution of the human eye a miracle, or was it just something that was always possible? Or is it only possible because God had a hand in it, right? So, right, there's lots of different ways we can answer that question. Good. So yeah, you can see there's an example here of like an incurable disease, right? So leukemia, right, does not have a man-made cure, right? We do not have a cure for leukemia.